Hey, good evening. Welcome back to our series that we have this week for our Youth Week of Prayer, when we are talking about forgiveness and reconciliation. What an awesome week we've already had so far, right? We had a couple of meetings already, and we are seeing that now you're already sending us your prayer request, and keep on doing that. Using again, you see it on the screen, the website or our email address that you can send it to. Send your prayer request, and we're gonna pray as a team for your prayer request. Also, again, that if you have anything that you would like to share with us, you can send it there too, and especially maybe you've already been able to use some of the ideas that Carol and Lucas have been creating, this kind of creative arts things. Maybe you made some of these things. Put them on there, make a picture of it, scan it, whatever you can do. Show us what you've made. We would love to see that, and it's going to be amazing as we continue this week. Now, also remember that if you're writing a letter that we can then send on to some of those who are lonely, which is again, of course, beautiful for this week. And it actually says a little bit, it fits with what I'm wearing today. Be the sermon and I care. Well, this is about that care, right? That we already talked about a little bit earlier. Caring for one another, bringing these letters to the elderly members. If you write that, do put on your first name, but not your last name, okay? Leave your last name out, only your first name. Put it on there, and then we will be so happy to bring this and send it to some of our elderly members and also the people that we have contact with here in our community. Okay, so I've said enough for now, because it's time to start listening to Uncle Cliff. Now you can see Uncle Cliff is trying to speak Dutch, but it sounds a little bit like it. But what is even more important, he's going to talk about that beautiful topic again of forgiveness. It's going to be amazing to continue the journey with one another, and he's going to talk about forgiveness and the embrace of people coming together and connecting with one another. So let's have a look what he has to share with us this evening.
Hi guys, my name is Clifford. Some of you may have seen me before, but I'm the director for Pathfinders at the SEC conference. But I'm actually very happy to be part of this exciting project to bring this week of prayer, to you. Now, I know you don't want me to mention the C word, but I'm going to mention the C word, the coronavirus word. I'm sorry, but only because it is fitting for what I want to say, today's lesson. And if you look at the title of the lesson today, if you ever look online, it's called Human Embrace. Now, you can understand why I brought this coronavirus or the C word in here today, right? Embrace, because it's ironical. I mean, goodness, this woman who wrote this, wasn't she not aware that the C word is going to come in and we're not going to be able to embrace each other but she brought this, and she wrote it. Of course, she didn't know, because by the time she wrote it, there wasn't this COVID-19 in place. But what is also ironical when I think about this, the big C word, a few weeks ago I went to a church, and this is before the government had a lockdown, and I entered into the church. And the greeter came to me. I'm not sure if it was the elder or what. And I could see both of us, he was uncomfortable and I was quite uncomfortable, because should I shake your hand? Should I embrace? Should I touch? What? And it was a very, very strange feeling. But when I think about this whole concept, and I'm trying to put this concept of, a human embrace together, I think of this whole coronavirus situation, and two things comes up in my mind. This idea of self-isolation, of being separated, of moving away from each other. And three things come to mind, and the one is, this may be an excuse. Think about this. May be an excuse for some who feel, I don't want to be with people. I don't like people. I want to be, and it's a good idea, to be on my own, and a good idea to not say good morning or to walk past people. It's a good idea, and for those who love being alone. But then there's also the situation of those who don't want to be alone, but are forced to be alone, forced to be isolated, forced to self-isolate. And I can just imagine those people sitting in their homes and being really, really frustrated, really, really hurtful, really, really painful in the sense, but how am I going to be on my own for the next 12 weeks? But I'm forced to. The other day, I'll read you a little statement. The other day I was driving in my car, and I listened to Radio 4, Okay, it's all right. Old people listen to Radio 4. I'm sorry, I'm old. You see the grey a little bit? I'm old, right? So old people listen. But here's the statement. This lady, Reverend Lucy Winkett, and I don't know from which church she is, but she does Thought for the Day, in the mornings. I take my daughter to school. I listen to this. And she makes the statement. And here's what she said. Just listen to this. It says, we are told that the contribution we can make for the common good, ironically, is to keep away from each other, right? But, she says, in a society that is already reflecting what is being an epidemic of loneliness, the prospect of more isolation is the one that seems to me especially hard on those who are already alone. That knocked me. And I said, whoa, during this situation, I must be very, very careful that by wanting to be away from each other, we must be careful that we don't make it hard for those who are alone already. And so I say, for us, let's transcend this virus. Let's transcend it and see how we can still draw people who are alone. The person who lives next door, the person who lives across the road from us, the person down the road, that we still make them feel that they are not alone. So there's this one, what I said, people who want to be alone. It's a good excuse. The second one, people who are forced to be alone, and they struggle, and we need to help them. But then there's a third one, and this is what this lesson talks about. I fear, and this excuse that that this virus of being isolating is an excuse perhaps for those who wish to avoid someone else because of what that person, of something that person did to them in the past. You know what I'm talking about, right? Now's the time. Man, I don't need to see him. I don't need to see her. Great stuff. I don't need to pass by her on the street. I don't need to sit next to her in the same church. I don't owe him. I can now have an excuse. Great stuff. The government did the great thing. I can be alone and I don't need to forgive. I don't need to see that person's face because of what he or she did to me for all those years. But here's the truth. Here's the truth. No virus is going to be, let me read this, because I want to make it clear. No virus is ever going to take the need to forgive away. Here's the truth. Coronavirus is not going to take the need to forgive away. The pain of the hurt is still there, even if you see the person on Zoom or Facebook, or you see the picture of somebody on, that hurt is still going to be there. And a lot of people do not realize it. A lot of people go through this pain, and that pain is still there, and they open a book and they see the person's picture, and that pain comes up again, you know. They see the person's face on Facebook, and that pain comes up again, you know, and that hurt and that pain just knots you up inside, you know, and you, even though you live in isolation of that person, that pain still remains. The story is told in our lesson about Joseph, you know, Joseph and his brothers. And Joseph and his brothers, you know, I can just imagine Joseph's brothers, you know, comes to Egypt, you know, and they deal with this governor, you know, and they get the shock of their lives when they actually discover it is their brother Joseph that they sold a while ago. I can just imagine the shock of their lives that they had to experience, you know, because somehow maybe one or two of those brothers never wanted to deal with the situation again. Maybe some of the brothers, you know, really thought, good, you know, by Joseph being away, I deal with the pain and I don't need to deal with it again. But somehow that pain hit them right in the face because Joseph was right there and they had to deal with this concept of forgiveness. The irony is, Joseph has already worked for this moment. Joseph maybe also dealt with it and he wondered, how is it ever going to be? Am I ever going to meet my brothers again? Am I ever going to see my family again? And that pain of hurt, you know, that hurt of someone did something to them, still he had to deal with. But when that human embrace came, when that forgiveness came, that story becomes so beautiful. When everything that was done in the past just melts away because forgiveness happens. The other story is the Samaritan woman at the well. You know that story, right? The woman avoids seeing other people. She goes when nobody goes to the well. She doesn't want anybody to see her. She doesn't want to deal with this pain that she has to struggle with. And maybe the others are also wanting to avoid her, so they don't go that time either. They're glad that she doesn't come, to the well. But Jesus steps into her life, and this is the amazing thing which knocks me in this particular story. The same woman who is want to be away from each other, from other people, she goes and she tells the story about what had happened to her right there at the well. Now, if you read the story, it says the whole town came out because of her story. Now you think, now what happened there? What happened there? They didn't like her. They hated her for what she was doing. But yet they followed her. And I'm thinking about the story and I'm thinking, but maybe they've been waiting for her and she's been for them, and the time came, Jesus created that right time for them to accept their forgiveness. This is what I mean. What I'm trying to, I'm making it a little bit difficult, but let me explain to this. It says that sometimes those that are apart are just waiting for someone to break the impasse, but both are afraid to give in because they are too afraid to think what could happen. The lady was living as an outcast because she was too afraid, perhaps, but the others may have waited too. What I'm trying to say is, sometimes we live in isolation, away from that person that we don't want to deal with. But maybe that person is waiting, but he's just afraid to have that embrace. You are also perhaps waiting, but you're just afraid of what might happen. In certain cases, sometimes you must just do it. You must just step out and say, look, listen, I'm going to contact that person. Listen, I'm going to contact that mate. I'm going to contact him and just hear how he's doing or how she is doing. And sometimes Jesus just takes that moment, he creates that moment, forgiveness happens, and the pain melts away. I'm going to finish with a final story, and this is a very sad story, but a very valuable story. Take a moment and go on the web and look at the Forgiveness Project. Amazing. If you go on the Forgiveness Project, there's loads of beautiful stories of forgiveness there. This one. I hope you can see this, right? Sorry I don't have a better picture. But this is Samantha Lawler. Now her story amazes me. Samantha, at 13 years old, her father not only raped, but murdered her mother right in their home. She came from school, she saw her mom lying on the couch there. She thought the mom is taking a nap, not thinking anything. Her friend came over. They were playing or doing something, and a few minutes later she came down and her mother is still lying there, and then she realized that her mother was dead. Long story short, discovered that her father has actually murdered her mom. And it took her, what is 13? 32 times 13 minus 13? It's like what? 18 years for her to somehow go over that bridge to forgive her father. For 18 years, she hated him. For 18 years, she didn't want to see his face. For 18 years, she wished that he would suffer so badly that he would just kill him. 18 years later, speaking to people, she went to see him. She took the courage to go and see him at the prison because she heard he wasn't doing well. So she goes there and she saw him. In her mind was this beautiful, strong young man, but now she sees an old man overladen with sickness, skeleton-like, and she sees him, and she admits she saw him, and in her mind she says, yes, that's what I've been wishing for, to see you that way. But the other part of her looked at it and she said, no. For 18 years she saw her father, and she saw the person that she grew to love in that first 13 years of her life. And then she says this. This is what she says. Forgiveness is not about forgiving the act, but forgiving the perfections which are inherent in all of us. She looked at the father and she realized, man, he's a human being. Yes, he murdered. Yes, he did what he did. But yes, he needed forgiveness. And for those 18 years, he was longing for his children to forgive him. And for 18 years, he suffered. The lesson today deals with this concept. And here's what I'm trying to say. It makes sense to not want to forgive somebody because of what somebody did to you. It makes sense. It makes sense, to hate somebody for what they've done or whatever, happened. It makes sense. Because you don't want to go through the pain again. But here's what a lot of people need to learn. Is that when forgiveness happens, the most amazing thing happens in their lives. Not only for that person, but for you or for the person who forgives as well. And you think about Jesus, Jesus had every reason to hate those who put him on that cross. Jesus had every reason to hate those who killed him. What's the words Jesus used? Father, forgive them. not because of the act, but because of the imperfections that are in all of us. May we, during this week of prayer, view the imperfections not in ourselves also only, but in others too. May we be transformed with the forgiveness that God gives. May we be moved by the Holy Spirit to transcend this separation, but to move closer to each other. May we experience the love of God in our lives today. Thanks for listening.
So, well, that was exciting, wasn't it? I mean, that's so powerful to listen to real stories of real people. People that have gone through some terrible things, but then have found the strength to open their arms and to embrace and to, just to connect again with one another. That is what this whole week is about. Forgiveness, reconciliation. Now, as you already seen by now, we also love the next part, where Carol and Lucas have been working together on doing something creative. Again, see what they're bringing to you, enjoy it, try it at home with all the time that we have now, and then when you've created it yourself, make a picture of it and send it to us on that email address that you see right now on our screen. And we look forward to see what you've made. God bless you.
Hello! Are you ready to a challenge? Would you be able to move this toothpick without touching it, using only one balloon? For today's challenge, we will need a coin, a toothpick, a transparent plastic cup, and a balloon. First, we will have to balance the toothpick on the coin and then put the glass. So, do you already know how to move the toothpick? Let's see. We must fill the balloon with air, and then we have to rub the balloon on a clean, dry hair. Look what happens. Do you know why the balloon could move the toothpick? When we rub the balloon on the hair, it steals electrons from the hair, so it gets charged, which we call static electricity. When we bring the balloon close to the stick, the negative charge of the stick want to move away from the balloon, and the positives want to get closer. These end up making the stick to move. When we are connected with God, we become His ambassadors, so we are charged with His love. This love will draw people to us and ward off evil. Please share your experiment with us by sending a photo to our email or sending on Instagram with the hashtag YouthSPC and tagging at Stanborough PC.
So, that is another evening of interesting thoughts, of moments to think about, to learn from, where possible maybe to change, but above all, to grow close to Jesus, our greatest example. We hope that you enjoyed this evening, and we're looking forward again to see you tomorrow evening. So don't forget, tomorrow evening, 5 o'clock, tune in, be with us. God bless you.